you've come since that little kid listening to American radio stations late at night when you're on the East Coast.
Oh, that was a cool thing, and I don't know what it was like for you, but in New Brunswick, where I grew up, little town at the time, we didn't have cable TV, town of about 3,500 people, Sackville, New Brunswick, and at night you could turn on the radio and hear WCBS in New York, WHDH in Boston, and I just fell in love with the radio.
Same thing for me, because late at night the AM stations traveled further, so I would pick up radio and I would just sit in bed, because I also didn't have cable. It was available in our right, but we just didn't have it. And I listened to all these stations, and it showed me there was another world out there that I didn't think I could ever have. So I think this job is sort of a fluke in a sense.
Well, and also it shows that if our families had cable, we'd be teachers or
we
something.
probably would. That's right. I'd be such a bad teacher. But think about how much different would your career have been had you been Ian Harvey the whole time?
So that's my middle name, and people laugh, but don't laugh because it's my dad's first name.
It's a good name.
I used that name for the first 2 days at a radio station in Amherst until...
I'm Ian Harvey.
Yeah, kind of like that, and until, although my voice was deeper, I think, but anyway.
You were much younger.
Yeah, sorry, until this girl that it was 2 days or 3 days after high school that I started working at the station, and she had graduated with me in high school, and she came up to me, tapped on the window of the car and said, "I heard a guy on the radio, sounded just like you, but it was Ian Harvey." And I thought, what's the point of being in the business if she doesn't know that I'm on the radio? So I used Hanuman Singh from that point on.
You did it for chicks.
Well, yeah.
That's amazing. It only occurred to me in the last couple of years how important it was to keep your ethnic last name. And it never really dawned on me that it was a big deal until I started to meet people from a generation before yours and mine who didn't see and hear ethnic names in the media. When did it occur to you that it was a big statement, not just being a person who was a visible minority, which you already been used to in Sackville growing up, right? but even your name, the ethnicity.
Well, you know what the strange thing is that the radio stations I worked at in Amherst, in Moncton, New Brunswick, and Halifax, at no point, and we're talking about the late 70s, early 80s, no one ever said to me, you should anglicize your name. There was a time that at some stations in Canada, it seemed like everyone had two first names.
Yeah.
You know, Mark James, like two very Anglo-Saxon first names on the air, and nothing that, as ethnic as Esterbrookes, much less Stromboliopoulos or Hanomansing. But no one ever asked me to do that. And you're right, I mean, in the town I was in, it was pretty obvious that I wasn't English or French or Irish. And even when I was in university in Halifax, a friend of mine was driving back home from Halifax to St. John, New Brunswick, and he went there for the weekend, came back to Halifax and said, "Oh, I saw your dad." And I said, "Like, you've never met my dad before?" He goes, "Oh yeah, well, I kind of stopped in Sackville and saw a guy and assumed it was your dad."
The other brown guy.
Yeah, and you know what? He was right.
He was your dad.
Yeah.